literacy advocate, and we are here today for Cooking Smart with Susan. We're so excited that you're back with us again, and we have a wonderful audience of over 13 people today. We're excited, and that audience could be you. The reason we are doing another show this month is because we wanted to give you some tips for Christmas early. If we did it in December, you might have already passed a Christmas party. And these are some tips on how you can make something quick, something smart, something wholesome, and something different, and take to that favorite party that you always go to. And if your best girlfriend is watching this, you might have to call her to make sure you don't take the same thing. So this is November 11th, Veterans Day. We want to give a shout out to all the veterans. And we also just want to say thank you to our Bartlesville Public Library for hosting this show today. We also want to thank the Institute of Museum and Sciences. Let me say this right. Institute of Museum and Library Services. You would think I would know that by heart by now. And the Oklahoma Department of Libraries for also sponsoring this wonderful program. Now, why do we do these programs? We do it because we are trying to help people eat better, cook better, stay out of McDonald's. You don't want to go there anymore anyway. The lines are too long, and sometimes the shortages aren't, half the menu isn't there. Sorry, McDonald's. But you want to cook at home. You want to get that quality up in your own home. Cooking is wonderful for the home. It's wonderful for the family. It's wonderful for the smells. It's wonderful for you because you are productive and you are learning to get that family atmosphere. And that is healthy as well. We have Susan Miller with us today, and oh my, can she ever cook. If you will stay tuned, you will find out how to make spinach, artichoke, bites, bruschetta, and I cannot believe this. Susan is going to show you how to make your own rosemary cracker and a tapioca flatbread. Now, if that doesn't interest you, I cannot imagine what would. So get on your phone right now, text your friend and say, please look at the Literacy Services page on Facebook, and you will be able to tap right into this live performance. By the way, those of you who are out there can get the recipe on the Facebook page after our presentation is over. And those of you who are here, we want you to fill out a survey, tell us how you enjoyed the class. And those who are here also get to taste all these bites of wonderful food. So I think I have properly set you up for this wonderful cooking experience. And now you're going to watch it, you're going to taste it, and you're going to enjoy it. May I present to you Susan Miller, Cooking Smart with Susan.
Thank you. Welcome. I'm glad everyone has joined us today. It's so great to have more people in the class. It's a lot more fun to cook to live people than to cook to a screen. If that's what you have to do, that's great. Do so, but thank you for coming. So we're going to cover a lot of ground today. There were just too many favorites and I just couldn't weed them out. So I did a little prepping ahead of time to help us get through them quickly. If you're going to a party, you don't necessarily have to make all of these, but you'll find a few favorites, hopefully, that you'll really like. Today with our some of us, we have dietary needs, we have preferences, we want to eat healthier, but when you go to parties, pretty much generally in the holidays, it's not so healthy. Delicious, but not so healthy. So hopefully we can kind of just edge a little bit towards the healthier eating. So, but we're going to do something different today. During the holidays, we tend to get very busy, don't we? I do. It's just the way it is. But really, the whole point of the holidays is to enjoy your friends, enjoy your family, spend more time with them. But if you are spending hours cooking, you're not going to be with your family as much. And granted, if you grow it homegrown, make it all the way from scratch, of course, that's the best quality. That tastes the best, but hopefully there's a few little shortcuts that we're going to take, and it's okay to allow yourself. I'm telling that to myself. It's okay to do shortcuts sometimes. Just be very smart about your shortcuts. So spinach artichoke dip is delicious. Who doesn't love spinach artichoke dip? All that garlicky, creamy cheese. But there's a lot of things in there that you really shouldn't eat. But we are going to make a version of that that's bite-sized, so great for a party. So we're going to use wonton wrappers. Buy these in the refrigerated section. Buy the dressing and the fruits and veggies. And if you have a little mini muffin pan, I've already stuffed some of these so that we can get through all of our recipes. But you're going to spray your pan. Now, if you have the little pump-up sprayers with your own oils, that's great. And this is a sprayer that has avocado oil in it. And you're just going to lightly just spray your pan. Maybe we are, maybe we are. There we go. And just make sure you spray over the edges. You're wanting to get the cup spray and the sides because the bottom of these wonton wrappers are going to crisp up a little bit, and you want it crunchy. And these little papers, they're already rolled out, just like that. You're going to press them down in the hole. If you have one of these, it makes it easier, but you can do it with your fingers. It just keeps it open. Then press, can you see that? Just press the sides down because you're going to fill it with dip. Just make sure you don't rip them, press them down. You want the oil on the bottom. Just a couple more. All right, there we go. We're going to stick these in a hot oven. You want to preset it to 375. And while we're mixing up the filling, we're going to just set these in the oven and let them crisp up a little bit. And if you can notice, see how the holes are open? If you don't press out the sides, they're going to close up a little bit when you bake them. And then when you try to spoon the filling in, it's harder to get to the bottom. So we're going to set these in the oven for about 5 minutes. Set our timer. And filling. Filling is so easy. So easy. We have a block of cream cheese, an 1/8-ounce block, and make sure that it's softened. It's easier to mix up when it's softened. Can of artichoke hearts, not marinated artichoke hearts, just regular artichoke hearts. And look for up here, it says tender small. And the reason we're getting the small is because sometimes this part of the artichoke heart tends to be a little tough. And you don't want little tough bites in your artichoke dip. So, set that off to the side. We're going to chop up. You can put more if you want to. We're going to put up 4 or 5 of these. Set the rest of these back here. Easiest way to chop these up, you can see here's the top of it. Chop it in half. And did you see that slide off the knife? You know that's a tough piece because it didn't slice through, so just toss that aside. Then turn it over, slice it in half again, so you have quarters, and then just run your knife down and chop it in little pieces. Pretty much all there is to it. We're just going to pile everything into one bowl. So we're chopping it in half, flipping it over, chopping it in half again. Oh, that one's a little tough, so this part we're just going to toss. If your knife doesn't go through it easily, it's too tough for your teeth to go through. All right. Next, we're going to put in just a couple handfuls of spinach. A lot of your recipes call for frozen spinach and you squeeze all the water out and all the goodness. No. Fresh baby spinach still has more of the nutrients and much better for you. We're going to chop this up. You don't have to be very careful about it. Just, you don't want big, long, stringy pieces. And exact measurements don't really matter either, but you want a couple cups of it there. Okay? Spinach. Now, if you're going to a party, that means you're going to be talking to people. You're going to be, you know, too much garlic, that's not good for parties. So what I already did earlier is I took a whole head of garlic and I put it in the oven for about 15 minutes at 375, and I roasted the garlic. It makes it sweeter, more mild, and it's not as offensive on the breath, but it's still delicious. So we're going to pull out 4 of these cloves. These are already soft. We're just going to break the paper off. There you go. A nice roasted piece of garlic. You can do this ahead of time and have it sitting in your refrigerator. All of our recipes are going to use roasted garlic today, so that's why we have a big cup of them. And really, peeling the paper off, that's probably the hardest part of this whole recipe. Which, it's not too bad, is it? Just about there. Now, if there's a little, see that little hard end right there? Make sure you pull those off. You don't want to chunk down that in your dip. Okay. Just get rid of all this little paper. Chop up our garlic. Oh, missed the paper. Just get it minced as small as you can. Don't really want to get a big bite of this. It's kind of sticky. The flavor is delicious. All right, garlic. Now we are going to add, this is optional, this is pepper flakes. Gives it just a little bit of kick. You can put more or less in it if you want. We're going to put in a ½ teaspoon. It's not spicy, just gives it just a little tiny kick. I'm going to put just a little bit of black pepper. And cups. I'm going to give it another minute. They're not quite dark. We're going to put a couple tablespoons of Parmesan, and we're going to put a cup of mozzarella cheese. And I went ahead and grated this ahead of time. And if you don't know, when you buy pre-shredded mozzarella, it's got to sit on the shelf, or any kind of pre-grated cheese. It has to sit on the shelf in the bag without sticking. So there's a white powder in it. And if you're going to use that in this recipe, it's going to dry your recipe out, so you'll have to add more moisture. So we're doing shortcuts. This shortcut isn't one of my shortcuts, because this cheese is fresh grated, and we have about a cup. And just toss that in there. And you could buy pre-grated Parmesan as well, but there again, that's your choice. If you're going to add a little bit dryness into your recipe, add a little bit more moisture. We're just going to put a couple tablespoons, just for flavor. Pretty fast, wasn't it? Let's put these back here. And did we get everything? Oh, the lime. Gotta have the lime. Put the juice of 1 lime. I brought my big guns today because we're going to be doing a lot of lemons and limes in this recipe. All right. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, as you can see, these aren't fully cooked, but the edges are starting to brown just a little bit. That's what you want them to look like. I'm going to set this right here, and it's ready to be filled. We are just about done with this filling. Now, if you're doing this instead of talking, this will go together a lot faster. If you have a glove, this is the type for a glove, because we're going to mix this with our hand. Just want to squish up the cheese and just get the filling all mixed together. Now, this is a lot of filling, so if it doesn't fill your cups, just set it in the refrigerator for a couple days or save it for your next party. That's all there is to it. And we're going to take, if you have 2 spoons, if you don't have one of these handy dandy little rollers, no problem, you can use 2 spoons. For today, we're going to use this. Just about a tablespoon. This is what I was talking about earlier, why it's really important to get the edges folded down. See how that folded over makes it harder to get the dip in. Putting the oil on the edge of the wonton wrapper just makes it a nice crispy little bite. And really these are best hot straight out of the oven, but they're just as delicious cold. In fact, I made some, had some left over, and then we went up to spend some time with one of my sons, and we just popped the cold ones in the oven, heated right back up, and they were just as delicious. There we go. Just about done. So if you were going home from work and you forgot you had to go to a party and you had to bring something, providing you already had all the ingredients, this is something you could whip up pretty quickly. You could also take this leftover bit and put it in a baking pan and put it in the oven, and you would have a dip to dip chips in, and that would be good too. So we're going to set these in the oven for about 10-15 minutes and have an appetizer. So what do you think? Quick, easy? And then in a little while, you get to try them. We're going to set our timer for 10 minutes and check them. There we go. Put this off to the side. Our next recipe is the cracker. I'm really excited for this recipe. It's so delicious. Food processor makes it very, very quick. This recipe is from my friend Jennifer, who She cooks very healthy. She shared this recipe with me so that I could share it with you, and I think you will like it a lot. This is a gluten-free cracker, so if you have wheat issues, not a problem. We're going to use a gluten-free blend. This is called the White Gold. This one is a nice light powdery. It doesn't have the strong taste that some of the gluten-free flours have. I think you'll like that one a lot. We're going to use almond flour, which gives it a little bit of nutty flavor. And we're going to use a little bit of ground flaxseed, also very good for you. And we have some avocado oil, oregano, garlic powder, a little bit of cold water, very cold water. That's on top of that. And the star of the show, fresh rosemary. Do you like fresh rosemary? It has such a lovely smell. Take the rosemary, pull it off. We're going to have about a teaspoon of it. If you don't have fresh rosemary growing, not a problem. You buy this at the grocery store. In the little packets. Just sit on the side. You're just going to want to chop that into little fine pieces. You can use this with a sharp knife. This my little ulu knife came from when I was visiting my sister in Alaska, and apparently an ulu knife is something every Alaskan needs to have. But it's great for chopping herbs.
I have one that's really cold and it's still very sharp. They seem to
Hold their sharpness.
their sharpness, right.
I do like it a lot when I remember to use it. We're going to put in, actually, getting ahead of myself, this goes in the flatbread, not in this one. All right, so we've got 3/4 a cup of the gluten-free flour. And because this is so fluffy, I'm going to use the 1/4 a cup and just dip it in 3 times. See what I mean? Very fluffy. 1, 2, and 3. Now we have 2/3 of the almond flour. So we're going to use the 1/3 cup and dip it twice. See how grainy that is? It's a very heavy flour. Then we have 2 tablespoons of flaxseed. Add a teaspoon of salt.
So you're making the crackers, not the flatbread, correct?
I'm sorry?
You're making the crackers, not the flatbread?
Crackers, yes. Alright. We have 1/8 teaspoon of garlic powder. We're just going to take 1/4 teaspoon and fill half bowl.
Make the baking powder.
I'm sorry?
Did you make the baking powder?
Yes, I did. Thank you very much. I'm glad you're looking out for me. And I passed it. That's a bad sign, isn't it? Thank you, Rosie. All right, about 1/4 teaspoon. We would not have had very good results. All right, now let's go over this. I've got gluten-free flour. I have the almond flour, baking powder, flaxseed, salt, garlic, and rosemary. And we're going to go ahead and mix this up. And it's going to be kind of loud when I turn it on, so I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to add in, while it's running, I'm going to add in 3.5 tablespoons of oil. Then I'm going to just start spooning in cold water. It'll probably take up to 5, but what you're looking for is for it to incorporate into a ball. Kind of like reach in and fill it, sticks together. That's the cracker dough. Pretty easy. Now, I'm going to roll this out on a piece of plastic wrap. Get all of this out of the way. Now, I did say that it was quick and easy. I didn't say it wasn't messy. I have a piece of plastic wrap flat, and we're going to roll this out into balls. And the reason for putting it on the plastic wrap is to let you lift it up. You go to put it on the pan. We're going to use this processor again, so I'm going to get all of the crumbs out. Roll this up, squeeze it up into a ball. And I'm going to roll this out into 2 separate. Just press it out with your hands. And I have a second piece of plastic wrap. I'm going to lay it over the top to keep it from sticking. Pull it out. You want to get them as uniform as possible. And if it's crumbly on the end, that's okay. But you can just scrape it up and re-roll it. So, lift this plastic wrap off. You're going to use it again. Just cut little squares. Now, if you have a special fancy cookie cutter and you have lots of time and you want to make different shapes, you can do that as well. Cookie sheet covered with parchment paper. This is why you put the plastic wrap on. These pieces that are kind of crumbly, just set those aside and re-roll them. Just turn this over in your hand, lift it up, and just lay them out on your cookie sheet. You want to get them to where they're not touching. Time to check our other appetizers. Ooh, beautiful. Look at that. Don't you want to try those? Of course, and you will. In just a moment. We're going to set them in this pan. We'll pull them out here in a moment. We'll just set them right here for now. let's finish our crackers. So if you like your cracker a little thicker, you can make them like that. If you want them thinner, just however you happen to like them. The plastic wrap just makes it so much easier to get them off. Now, I believe that you probably could take this, if you didn't need that many crackers, and wrap this up and put it in your freezer and save it for when you want to make more crackers. Or you could just bake them all up and maybe put the crackers in the freezer. I'm really excited for you to try these crackers. Now in class, we're not going to take the time to roll out all the bits and edges, just so that you can see how to make the crackers and so that there's enough for everyone to try. So we'll get 2 pans full here and then we'll just put the rest aside. Okay, so easy, yes or no? That's pretty much it. Now we just have to bake them. Set this aside. Pop these in the oven for 16 to 22 minutes. We're going to leave it at 375. Set the timer for 16, check them, and what you're looking for is so that they're kind of crisp, not burnt. You don't want to overdo them, just crisp. All right, now for the flatbread. Flatbread is made from tapioca flour, and you know tapioca has a weird texture to it. And so this is a very different bread, but I think you'll really like it. We're going to do 1.5 cups of tapioca. Now, tapioca flour comes from the cassava root. It is not the same as cassava flour. Cassava flour is very heavy. This is light and fluffy. All right, so we have 1.5 cups. Then we're going to add coconut cream to it. When you're buying your coconut cream, make sure that it doesn't, in the ingredients, doesn't have sugar in it. You want just the coconut cream. And in the can, you'll have liquids and solids, and it's just kind of gloppy. So put the cream in a pan and just get it melted, and you want it hot. So I put this on earlier so that it would be ready to go. We're going to put in about 1/2 cup. And 2 tablespoons, yes, 2 tablespoons of oil. And this is a grapeseed oil, so it's a little bit lighter, or this is avocado oil, but you can also use grapeseed oil. You can also use coconut oil. Just gonna stir this till it's all combined. We're going to let that set just for a moment. We're going to chop more rosemary. We're looking for about a teaspoon. And when we get finished with the flatbread, before we bake it, we're going to sprinkle a little bit of salt on it, a little bit of rosemary, and drizzle it with a little bit of oil. So we're going to leave just a little bit of the rosemary on board. Half a teaspoon of oregano, dried oregano. All right, I think my measuring spoons are jumping ship. We're going to do half of this 1 teaspoon. Okay. So we have the tapioca flour. We need half a teaspoon of salt. Got the oil, and we're going to do a nutritional yeast. Now, I don't know if any of you remember, do you remember the product called brewer's yeast? That's what this is, and I think maybe they didn't like the name brewer's yeast, so now it's called nutritional yeast, but it got its name because it really was from the brewing. And so they would dry it, and it's very high in vitamin B, but it also gives a very rich flavor. So we're going to add 3 tablespoons. And this is not active yeast, so you can't make bread with it. Right. And I believe we have everything. We're going to mix this all in. And just take your finger and just kind of knead it around once the stickiness is gone. If you have a baking stone, You can heat the baking stone up. This cooks in a very hot oven. It cooks at 500 degrees, but just for a few minutes, just for like 8 minutes, and then it's done. But if you don't have a baking stone, a cookie sheet works just fine. Now, we have crackers in the oven at 375, so we can't bake our bread yet, but we're gonna have it ready so that we can just slide it right in the oven. We're going to put it on this pan right here so that it's just ready to go in. Press it out to a flat circle. Or you could make a bunch of little circles if you like, just depending on how big you want your wedges. Make sure that it's all nice and even. And you don't have to cut it in wedges, you can make little squares. You don't want it too thin, but not too thick, so I would say maybe about 1/4 of an inch thick. Okay. Drizzle it with a little olive oil. And when you go to sprinkle your salt on here, you don't want this over salty, because that'll pretty much ruin it, but you want just a little bit of hint. So put a little bit in your hands and just barely sprinkle a little bit over the top, not a lot. Not least, just a little bit of rosemary. Rosemary is such a delightful flavor. It's so warm. It just takes this little bread to a whole new level. Right. That one's ready to go into the oven. What do you think? Hard? Simple? Pretty easy, wasn't it? And we'll just set this aside. And when our crackers come out, then we will put the bread in. Now we're going to do the 3 dips. We're going to make a beet hummus. If you want to do this with fresh beets, you're going to want to put the beets in the oven and roast them, prick the skins so that it's nice and flavorful. You're going to put your garlic in the oven and you're going to roast it. But we are doing a shortcut today. We are going to, actually 2 shortcuts. We are going to do canned garbanzo beans and canned small whole beets. That's our shortcut for today. You're going to want to take the garbanzo beans, dump them in a pan, put a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda on it, and let them simmer because that breaks the skin down. But I already did that so that we could go quickly. So this is 1 can of garbanzo beans that has been simmered with baking soda to break down the skin, and 1 can of small whole beets drained. Just going to dump those right in. And next, we're going to put in 2 tablespoons of tahini. Tahini is sesame seeds ground up into a paste, kind of like peanut butter. And by the way, if you're looking for this, it was in the peanut butter section of Walmart. You're going to put 2 tablespoons of this in here. Now hummus needs a lot of garlic. So we're going to put, where'd our garlic go? There it is. We're going to put 10 of these. Break the paper off. And you can put more or less depending on what you like. These are some little bitty ones. All right. Are you keeping count for me? It doesn't really matter how many you put in there, but you need a good amount. All right. I think that's probably good. Roasted garlic. It's great for your cooking, but boy is it messy and sticky. We're going to put in half a teaspoon of cayenne. This is optional. If you don't want as much, you can put in less. Or if you want it extra spicy, you can put in more. This just kind of helps add brightness to it. It's not really spicy, it just kind of that back, a little bit of back heat. We're going to put in half a teaspoon of cumin. That is everything except for olive oil and lemons. But before we put the liquid in, we want to go ahead and pulse it until it's just creamy smooth. I didn't. What would I do without you?
I'm really interested in reading the recipe.
You do need salt in this. So we're going to put about a teaspoon. And you can put more or less depending on what you like. And some fresh ground black pepper. I've got a few little garbanzo beans stuck to the side and a few beets, and you don't want any chunks in your hummus. So this part right here, very important to get it very smooth. Crackers have gone off, so we're going to give those a quick check. One out so you can see it. They're not very brown. So did you hear that break? It's kind of soft, so we're going to leave it in for another 2 minutes. while this is running, we're going to put in the juice of 1 lemon and the juice of 1 lime. And then we're going to add olive oil, at least a 1/2 cup, maybe more. The olive oil is what gives the hummus its texture. Now, if you want to add all lemons, you can. If you want to add all limes, you can. I just like the flavor of both. I think that probably occurred one time when I was cooking and I only had 1 of each. All right. Now, before I put all of this lemon and lime in, you know, some are more juicy, some have more, some have less. You want to taste it first because you can't take it back out. So we're just going to turn this on and drizzle part of it in. Just give it a quick little taste and make sure that it's not overpowering on the It's about to go up. I think we can put the rest of the lemon in there. Gonna check our crackers because it's about to go up. 4 seconds. Good timing. It's beautiful. It just starts to brown just a little bit. A little soft still. Two more minutes. Now while this is running, we're going to drizzle in the oil. Got a 1/3 cup here. And we may end up putting in more, just depending on what the texture's like. Isn't that pretty? And when we serve this, we're going to drizzle more olive oil on top, and we're going to sprinkle fresh dill. Now, looking at that, I think I would add more oil because you want it. It's still a little stiff. So we're going to add just a little bit more oil. Check our texture again. I think that's better. What do you think? The last thing that you have to do before you serve it, you have to taste it. You have to know that it's got the right flavor. And I think we're spot on. Now, if you're in a really big hurry, you can always go get pre-made hummus, add your beets, add your spices, and that would be even a faster shortcut. All right, we are going to pull out our crackers. We're just going to slide them right in this basket. And we have crackers. Hummus. Before we do that, we're going to turn our oven up to 500. We're going to let that heat up to cook our flatbread. This is just pretty. This is very Christmassy. Drizzle with a tiny bit of olive oil on top. You can even put roasted garlic on top. We're going to put some fresh dill. Now, if you don't happen to have fresh dill growing outside, you can get a little package of it, just like this. It doesn't keep very long, so you want to get it right before you use it, and then just chop it up. Just gives it a bright, fresh flavor. Yeah, it looks Christmassy, doesn't it? Can't wait for you to try this. We've got 2 more dips to go, and they are by far the fastest of all of them. Clean up this mess just a little bit. I'm going to make a guacamole, and this is by far probably one of our biggest shortcut guacamoles. This isn't how I always do it, but it's how I do it when I'm in a quick hurry. This is roasted salsa verde. We've got 3 avocados. We've got a couple pieces of roasted garlic. Let's find the bigger ones here. And we have a lime, jalapeno, or cilantro, whatever you want to use. Serrano, sorry. And cilantro. When you're choosing an avocado, really what you're looking for, it should have the stem in it. If it doesn't, that's not the end of the world. But when you press it, it should have a little give. Don't buy them if they're rock hard. They're not good. And chances are they'll go bad before you get a chance to eat them. They shouldn't be squishy. They should just have a little bit of give. Now there's a great big pit in there, so you don't have to worry about cutting through your hand. You know, you're not supposed to cut against your hand. This has a pit. Just slowly work your knife all the way around. Give it a quick twist. And then on the other side, and you got the pit out. And we're going to scoop this out. With a spoon. Now, if you were going to slice this for your salad or put it on for toppings, then you could make crisscrosses with your knife like this, and then crisscrosses again. Then when you squeeze it out, then you've got the perfect little squares. But we're making guacamole, so you don't have to go to that trouble. When you have an avocado that pops out like that, you know it's a good one. It's ripe, it's ready to eat. That's really what you're looking for. But since we're making guacamole, we're just going to take a spoon and just loosen it all the way around, pop it out. Now you can adjust this if you don't need as much guacamole. We're going to make 3 batch. slide the spoon around, it just pops right out. And one more avocado. This handy little spoon. If you don't have a spoon like this, feel free to use a fork. But when it comes to making guacamole, this thing is wonderful for making egg salad or potato salad because it mashes it, but it still leaves little chunks, and it has some give to it. It's a little Pampered Chef tool that I got years ago, and it does a great job on the avocados. Because you don't want it creamy smooth. You want just a few little chunks in it.
I have a question. So where do you get your avocados?
So I said,
Yes.
These avocados, believe it or not, came from Walmart. You have to shop around for avocados. And do you know what the season for avocados? I don't know either, but wherever these came from, they're perfect. They're beautiful. And, you know, honestly, if I go into a store and I want avocados, but they're all just rock hard, we're not having avocados that day. I just don't buy them if they're rock hard, but they have a little bit of
I have a terrible time trying to get the right avocado. But the best ones I've ever had, there was a Hispanic gentleman standing there, and I said, would you help me find some good ones? He says, whatever. I had good avocados.
You had good avocados. That's awesome. You know, that's great. That's great help. But yes, you do have a problem with shyness. That is true. If you fill them though, fill the bottom end, and if there's a little bit of give, that's a good sign. And then there should just be a tiny bit of give on the side, but it shouldn't squish. And if it's rock hard, it's not good. We're going to use an avocado, right? Jalapeno, thank you. Jalapenos generally are more mild. My preference is a serrano. They have a little bit of spice to them. If you don't want any spice at all, then you're going to want to pull out the veins and the seeds, and that will keep it from being too spicy. So we're going to make a bit of a mild guacamole today. Really use whatever pepper you like. So you've got them cut in half, make sure your knife is sharp, and then just slide it along. And if you slide it, it slices much easier. Got little strips going this way. Flip them to the side. Because you want pretty small pieces, you know, especially if you have a hot pepper, you don't want a big chunk. Goes in. Got our garlic. Again, garlic is what takes the longest in all of these recipes. Getting the paper off. There is a recipe, if you don't want to have to go through all of this, you can take your garlic, peel them, and put them in a glass baking dish with a little olive oil, a little lime, pepper flakes, and just let them simmer, and then you keep them in a jar. And then you have your fresh garlic when you need it. Which maybe we'll do that for one of these classes. You can use the oil for cooking. All right. Chop this garlic up pretty small. Get all the little papers out. All right. just a couple more things to put in. We're going to squeeze in a lime. Now on guacamole, that's our oven. We're up to temperature, so we're going to slide our flatbread in. Set it for 8 minutes. Lost the lemon jar, so we're going to use this little cup right here. You don't want to overpower guacamole with lemon or lime, so start small and you can taste it and add more if you need more. So to start with, we're just going to put a half cup. And we're going to add a little bit of cilantro. Just a little handful. Get all the stems out. Just give it a good chop. Make sure you get the cilantro pieces very small, because if you tend to get a really big piece of cilantro, it can really overwhelm your guacamole. Now we're going to add our shortcut. When you make guacamole, you tend to put peppers and onions and all those lovely flavors. But this salsa right here, we're just going to add it straight to our guacamole. Well, the lid is stuck. I don't know if you know this trick, but my mom taught me this trick. Stick the flat end of the knife and just kind of, and you got your jar of this. All right, we're going to add about a half a cup. You can add more if you like. And then we're just ready to stir this up. We've got one more ingredient to put in here. We're going to put mangoes. Mangoes are really hard to get, just like avocados. If you can find a ripe one, add the mango. If you can't, don't add it, because they're pretty hard and they don't really taste like a mango. So we've got about a half a cup of mango. I'm going to dump that in there. And it just adds a nice little different twist, kind of a holiday twist. And there, we have party guacamole. Now I will tell you, if you have a vacuum seal, if you put this guacamole in a vacuum seal bag, it will keep for up to a week in the refrigerator and it will not turn brown. So that's something that you can make ahead of time. And we have one more dip that we're going to put in here. And it's probably the easiest dip of all. It's just bruschetta. It's like a pico de gallo without the jalapeno flavor. And I've already cut up some of the tomatoes to rinse my board off. I've made quite a mess up here. When you're cutting up tomatoes for a bruschetta, the Roma tomato has less juice in it. It has more of the meat. So the Roma tomato is a better choice for your bruschetta. And I've already cut up 4 tomatoes, and we're going to cut up one more. The easiest way to do that is sharp knife again. Flip out the little center, put it on its side, and you're going to cut it in slices down this way, and then take off the rounded end, put it face down, put this end face down right here, and then sharp knife Not chopping, not pressure, but sliding, and it should go right through your tomato skins. If your knife does not slide through, it's time to sharpen them. Okay, flip them sideways, and again, I'm not putting pressure, but I'm sliding the knife and it just goes right through the skins. If you are putting pressure, you're going to squeeze your tomato and you're going to make it very juicy and watery, and that's not what you want for this recipe. The tomatoes in the bowl. And we're going to cut half of the purple onion. Remember, cut the root, save the root end. If you're not going to use the whole onion, cut from the top half because the root end will help keep it fresh longer. So we're just going to take half of this off. And to keep your onion from making you cry, keep it in the refrigerator until right before you use it. So cover this other half. So we're not putting a lot of onion in here, just a little, enough to just flavor it. We're going to cut this in half, and then if you stack the halves on their end, it's easier to get them all nicely cubed. Hold it together with your fingers, and we're just going to make slices all the way down. And then if you take your slices and turn them sideways, and slice this way, you have nice little cubes. And it's fast. I like fast when it comes to chopping and cutting. Okay, slide our onions in there. And we're going to put half of an English cucumber. This is that cucumber that comes all wrapped in plastic. The reason I like the English cucumber for this is because there are less seeds in the middle and it's not so watery. So we're going to cut this in half. Cut it in half again. And set it on its side. We're going to make little tiny cubes because this is a dip. So you want to keep small. And again, put them on their sides. Cut little strips. And on this recipe, the amounts that you put in here are not quite as important. And you don't have to put everything in here that I'm putting in. Try different vegetables. Try different things that you like. If you want to make it spicy, put a pepper in it. If you want sweet peppers, you can put sweet peppers in it. It's a tomato base, but there's lots of things you can put in it. All right, that's all we're going to put in there. I don't think we're going to put the rest of that cucumber. I'm going to check on our flatbread. Look at that. Is that not beautiful? What you're looking for is it needs to be just a little bit crisp, but still kind of soft. Okay. We're just going to let this sit in the hot. I'm going to turn it off, but I'm going to let it sit in there just for another minute or so. All right. I'm going to put some basil. And you can experiment with different herbs that you put in here, but I really like the basil in this one. When you're cutting basil, pick the leaves off and put them in a little stack. We're not going to use all of this. We're just going to use about that many. Then when you have them in a stack, then just roll them up as tight as you can get them. And again, if your knife is sharp, this will be much easier. Lay it flat on your cutting board and take your sharp knife and just make little bitty slivers all the way down. You don't want to get a big bite of basil. Basil again is very strong. Now, if your knife isn't sharp, you're going to mush it more than you're going to slice it. And I'm just going to give it a couple slices this way. And you've got nice little bitty pieces of basil. All right. Put a little bit of salt in here. You're probably going for about a teaspoon, but then again, just taste it and see what you like. Stir it all up. Add some lime. And you can use lemon or lime, whatever you prefer. Do I have lemon on the recipe? I have lime? No? Please write that in on your recipe. This has to have some lemon or some lime. It has to have the citrus. Sorry about that. And this was a half of a lime. And does it have olive oil? Yes, it does. We're going to put in about 5 tablespoons of olive oil. Now, the longer this sits, the better it gets. Those flavors just go so well together. Now, before you take this out, you're going to need to test it because sometimes this one takes a little extra salt. A little bit more salt. Now that is fresh, it's bright, and you could eat it on crusty bread. If you wanted to toast up some French bread and take it with you, you can eat it on the crackers, you can eat it on the flatbread. It's delicious, it's wholesome, and it's good for you. So that's our dip. Just fill this little pan here, and then we're going to cut our flatbread, and then we are ready to eat. I'm really anxious for you to try these crackers and this flatbread. They're so delicious. So you can cut this however you want. I think we're going to cut kind of big to cut wedges, so I think we're going to cut just little squares. There you go. See the middle? That's the part that's kind of chewy, and then you have the crunchy on the outside. They're interesting. They're just fun. So we are ready to set these on the platter. We've got crackers on one side, and we've got flatbread on the other. Are you getting hungry yet? And there you go. You've got spinach artichoke bites. You've got tapioca flatbread. You have rosemary crackers. You have beet hummus. You have guacamole and bruschetta. So there you go.
We have one question.
Susan, we want to thank you for such a bonus show today. Since we're not having a show in December, we got the bonus today of being able to see all of these different things made. So those of you who are out watching on Facebook, if you need to take a little break and come back and watch the end, you don't want to miss anything that Susan had to say. We will do some questions right after we finish and close down the show. We want to remind everybody that this is the Health Literacy Department of the Bartlesville Public Library. We teach you how to cook. We teach you how to be healthier. We're all about Oklahomans raising up that level of health. We want to say a special thank you to all the veterans who might be watching or veterans who might just be out there. We want to say thank you for your service today. This is Veterans Day, November 11th. We want to thank Susan for always being amazing. She gets the award for multitasking today, doesn't she, class? Everybody give her a hand.
How about to make a mess?
Yes. Oh, well, she made a mess, but listen, all good cooks make a mess. So before we let you go out there in Facebook land, we want to remind you that all the recipes will be on Facebook. They'll be posted. If you have questions, you can address them on Facebook and we'll get Susan's answer and try to send them out to you. As I said, we will not have a show in December. We will come back in January with a wonderful new show and we'll get all that information out to you. It'll be on our website. You just Google Bartlesville Public Library. Go up into the tab and you will see literacy services. Punch on that. We have a calendar of all of our health events, all of our cooking shows. Oh, and by the way, there is a tobacco cessation class coming up at 1 o'clock next Thursday, November the 18th. You will want to come up and hear it, and we will also be on Facebook Live. But before we go, we want to say thank you to the Institute of Museum and Library Services, the Oklahoma Department of Libraries, and of course your Bartlesville Public Library for presenting Cooking Smart with Susan from the Literacy Services Department of the Bartlesville Public Library. This is Joni Elmore saying thank you. And I also want to say a little special thank you to our wonderful director, Karen Kerr-McGraw, who in the background silently runs this whole place up here. And we want to say thank you for all of her creativity and everything that happens up here in Literacy Services. We'll see you. This is all for 2021. See you in 2022. Bye-bye.